Chapter 81. 5. Element Manipulation, 5. Element Annihilation. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Those trainees almost broke down upon hearing that they had to hunt dire beasts and give what they hunted to the training camp for free. Not only that, they must not hide their harvest because it was going to affect their results. Poor result meant poor ranking. Poor ranking meant poor benefit. Poor benefit meant poor self-cultivation. It was a vicious cycle. What vexed them even more was that those Vitality Enhancement Fluid and Gene Arcana Enhancement Fluid given to the outstanding trainees were bought using the money from the dire beasts that they hunted. How sad. It would be nice if they could make it to the top 30 and enjoy the Vitality Enhancement Fluid and the Gene Arcana Enhancement Fluid. If not, they were going to get the short end of the stick, big time. But this was nothing compared to what came next. To prevent some trainees from dawdling around, we have this rule. Those who occupy the last 3 places for 3 consecutive weeks would be kicked out of the super training camp. The camp commandant said coldly. So never think of dilly-dallying because it is not possible. Everyone was shocked. They could be kicked out of the super training camp. This was something they did not know before. Of course, those who occupy the top spots consecutively will receive handsome rewards. But I am not going to tell you what the rewards are. You all can read it in the training camp manual. All right. I have said what I need to say. Let me remind you one last time, the leaderboard will be updated weekly. The camp commandant gave everyone a once-over. It is Thursday today. As per the rule, you all have got to go into the wilderness to hunt dire beasts. Today. We have just arrived. Did I hear that correctly? The trainees were grumbling. They had just arrived at the super training camp and not gotten any training. Yet they were asked go hunting for dire beasts. That was so depressing. Because this is the first hunt, the training camp strictly requires you all to form teams. The dire beasts in the Australian continent aren't something you have ever imagined. There are various tools, dimensional pockets, transports, cold weapons, dire beast radar in the training camp. You can rent whatever you want. You heard it correctly, for rent. They are nice to use, but once broken, considered sold. One last reminder, the Australian dire beasts differ from the dire beasts in other places. They are not only vicious but also horrifying in terms of strength. So don't simply go to the high-risk zone. Otherwise, you all will die for nothing. Now, dismiss. As the camp commandant finished and left, Jing Biao and other mentors also followed suit, leaving behind Ling Jiao and the rest of the 200 trainees looking at each other. It has started just like this. Shi Gang sighed, then looked at Ling Jiao with an expectant look. Should you and I form a team? Form a team. Ling Jiao frowned. In all fairness, he did not feel like wanting to form a team. He knew very well of his ability, forming a team would only bring down his score. Not that he had any choice, it was the training camp's rule. Just then, Ayuha and Yang Ling came up to him. Ling Jiao had already read their minds. You two want to form a team with me, too? Yeah. The 2 girls nodded. Being fresh off the boat in unfamiliar territory, the best thing to do was to choose someone they knew. Ling Jiao nodded his agreement. Since the rule says we have got to form a team, then let the 4 of us form a team. Forming a team with someone else might bog down him. However, Ayuha was an exception, her arcana was impossibly powerful. He was not so sure about Yang Ling. Though. Since she could get a place, just like Ayuha did, she probably was no slouch either. Let's rent some tools. All right. The 4 of them came to the armory, rented 10 top-tier dimensional pockets, and left the fortress. They all had their own maglev airship. So it did not matter whose maglev airship they used. Stealth mode was activated as the airship lifted off. The four of them sat in the living quarter staring at the dire beast radar screen. The radar shows that there are many dire beasts in the northeast. The one who spoke was Sure Gang. For safety's sake, we had better start with Class .4 dire beasts. Class 4 is too lame. It is pointless. Ling Jiao tapped on the dire beast radar screen, filtering out the other classes and leaving only Class .5 dire beasts on the radar screen. Shall we start with Class .5? Sure Gang's expression changed subtly. We all are just level .4 arcanists. Would it be too reckless for us to take on Class .5 dire beasts? Not at all. Ling Jiao let out a smile. I think we need to get to know each other's arcana and strength before we start hunting. Only then we could work together seamlessly. The three nodded in agreement with Ling Jiao. I am capable of earth and gravity manipulations. Ling Jiao took the lead. I can hunt Class .5 dire beasts alone. Ai Yuha and Yang Ling.er curled their lips petulantly. Who are you bluffing? Who doesn't know that you have triple arcana? I will tell you all about my other arcana when the time is ripe. But now, Ling Jiao paused, then continued, it is a secret. Whatever. Ai Yuha rolled her eyes, sneering at Ling Jiao's action of hiding his ability. I have dimensional arcana, the ability to manipulate dimensions, using dimensions to suppress and hem Class .5 dire beasts. Besides, I can hem a Class .6 dire beast for over 10 seconds. Dimensional arcana. Sure Gang was astonished. You are capable of the legendary dimensional arcana. That's awesome. It is one of the most powerful arcana. It is all right. Ai Yuha let out a smile. Linger's arcana are the most incredible. She could manipulate and annihilate the 5 elements. Manipulate the 5 elements, Bedodem, annihilate the 5 elements. Ling Jiao was as stunned as Sure Gang was. Ai Yuha continued. Ling.er could manipulate the 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, at the same time. That means everything that comprises these 5 elements is under her control. The same goes with 5-element annihilation. She could annihilate everything that is made up of the 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. D*mn. Sure Gang exclaimed. Ling Jiao was wide-eyed. Earlier, he had guessed that Yang Linger's ability was good, but he did not expect it to be this shocking. 5-element manipulation, just this one arcana alone equated the 5 arcana of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth manipulations. Manipulating metal, wood, water, fire, and earth at the same time, that had almost covered all elements in the world. After all, most things were made of these elements. Let alone 5-element annihilation, which was even more terrifying. I can't believe that there is such an arcana in this world. There was a light in Sure Gang's eyes. It is my honor to have such a teammate among us. We are going to make some really big kills. Yang Ling.er let out a timid smile. What is your arcana? Ling Jiao looked at Sure Gang. My eyes. Sure Gang took off his sunglasses, revealing his eyes. Ling Jiao's jaw dropped to the floor while Ai Yuha and Yang Ling.er covered their mouths with their hands in astonishment. They were blood-red. Sure Gang's eyes were blood-red, like a pair of rubies with pupils in the shape of black flame. There was only one way to describe his eyes. They were Sharingans where the Magatama pupils were replaced by the black flames. My eyes are something special. Sure Gang explained. By focusing my vision upon an object, the black flame will be ignited. This black flame is extremely destructive, burning through virtually everything. Ling Jiao's jaw dropped to the floor again. Chapter 82. Flying Demon Wolves, Killing in Silence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless fantasy translation. In this world, there were many types of ocular arcana. Laser vision, telescopic vision, X-ray vision and so on. There was a variety of them, more than what people could think of. But Shi Gang's ocular arcana were still a shocker to Ling Jiu. Shi Gang could release a black flame wherever he focused on. Was this not Amaterasu, shines from heaven? Watch out, guys. There is a class .5 dire beast up ahead. While Ling Jiu was still in shock, Shi Gang, who was staring at the dire beast radar screen, suddenly called out. Ling Jiu took a look and saw a dire beast eating something on the ground. This dire beast's body was over 10 meters long, covered in quills. It looked neither like a wild boar nor a rodent. It was a class .5 dire beast. Steelquill porcupine. It was feasting on an over .5 meter long silver kangaroo, which was still alive, screaming in pain as the steelquill porcupine gnawed its body. This was an ordinary sight to the four of them. Nature was a cruel place, where animals eating their prey alive was not uncommon. It was nothing to be surprised about. The only thing they could do was to kill this steelquill porcupine and gave the kangaroo a quick one. Who is first? The four of them looked at each other. Follow what we have agreed before, we will take turns with class .5 dire beasts and join hands when it is a class .6. So leave this one to me. Ling Jiu lunged out of the airship. The steelquill porcupine suddenly turned around, staring dead at Ling Jiu with its menacing eyes. Its quills stood on ends as it growled. The beckoning. Ling Jiu grabbed with his hand in the air. Since he could use gravity to bounce off objects, he could also use it to pull objects toward him. The only difference was the directions of the gravity force. Changing the gravity force's direction was a piece of cake for Ling Jiu. Boom! The steelquill porcupine floated into the air involuntarily. This freaked it out. The steel quills were shot out from its body toward Ling Jiu. Rock giant. Ling Jiu had turned into an osmium giant in the matter of a breath. The densely packed steel quills hit Ling Jiu with loud muffled sounds. But they did no actual harm to him. Eightfold rolling thunder. Ling Jiu clenched his right fist and struck out a punch in a flash. The blow penetrated the steelquill porcupine's skull and killed it instantly. The steelquill porcupine dropped to the ground and became breathless after struggling for a few times. Ling Jiu kept the body and returned to his normal form before coming back to the three of them. You are damn awesome, Ling Jiu. Shi Gang's eyes flashed with light. You just killed a class .5 steelquill porcupine with a punch. That's brutal. It is all right. Let's move on. After about 10 minutes, they met a second dire beast. It was a giant snake of over 30 meter long. Its body was as large as a water tank. The reddish-brown snake, with its pair of eyes, stared at the four of them. Class .5 Australian taipan snake. AI Yuha whispered. Who is next, Ednel.co? Let me try. Cover me. Shi Gang was eager to try. Be careful. No worries. Shi Gang took a deep breath, took off his sunglasses, and stared. The next moment, a black flame violently burned on the Australian taipan's head. The dire beast shrieked in pain, wriggling and twitching as it rolled on the ground, flicking its tail around. As the tail whacked the rocks shattered, and as the tail hit the bushes broke in half. The Australian taipan snake was in great pain. Sadly, the harder it struggled, the more intense the black flame burned. The Australian taipan snake's head was burnt into ashes in just a few moments. As the black flame continued to spread to dire beast's body, Shi Gang glared again and the black flame magically disappeared. The headless Australian taipan snake was still wriggling on the ground. But everyone knew that without the head, death was the only outcome. Its fate was irreversible. That's a badass flame. Terrific. Ling Jiu and others were stunned, wondering if they were to encounter this flame of Gang, how they could deal with it. It's done. Gang kept the Australian taipan snake's body and walked up to the other three with a smile. Didn't you just kill a Class .5 dire beast? Why did you look so scared of them just now? Ling Jiu teased. My flame can indeed kill Class .5 dire beasts. But it needs time to do that, during which the dire beast could find enough time to attack me. I can't deal with a frenzied Class .5 dire beast. You have a point. The four of them moved on. Half an hour later, they came across a group of about 50 Class .5 dire beasts, the Australian flying demon wolves. They were about 15 meters long, saffron. The most bizarre thing was, they all grew a pair of yellowish wings on both sides of their ribs. The wings could spread as wide as 20 meters. The Australian flying demon wolf was a rare wolf type of dire beast that could fly. Shall we join hands this time? Ling Jiu said with a smile. Sure. There was no objection from the other three. There were enough flying demon wolves to go around for them. Ling Jiu led the way and lunged out, using his eightfold gravity to immobilize 12 of the flying demon wolves. Eightfold rolling thunder. Ling Jiu leaped forward, his body fading into a bolt of lightning as he shuffled among the 12 flying demon wolves, killing them with 12 punches. He kept the bodies of the 12 flying demon wolves. As he looked over at the rest of the demon wolves, he saw black flames were burning on 12 of them. Apparently, that was the work of Gang again. Meanwhile, the rest of the flying demon wolves were immobilized on the spot as Yuha performed a dimensional arcana. Next, it was Yang Ling's turn. At first, it seemed like she did not make any move. But somehow immediately a flying demon wolf, followed by the rest, suddenly dropped dead to the ground. Killing over 20 flying demon wolves in silence, what Yang Ling.er has done. Ling Jiu got chills. Killing in silence, this was an extremely terrifying ability that was impossible to defend against. Chapter 83. Compound, Eyed Wombat, Arcana Replication. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. They moved on. Don't you think it is overly powerful with the four of us as a team? Gang looked relaxed. We have easily killed those Class .5 dire beasts. So much for the Australian continent. Don't let your guard down. Yuha warned. As Camp Commandant has said, many Australian dire beasts are stronger than we think. We could die if we are not careful. Never underestimate your opponent. The casualty rate of previous year's super training camp was as high as 50%. If that figure is anything to go by, we will expect 100 out of 200 trainees in this batch to stay back in the Australian continent forever. Yang Ling.er chimed in. A 50% casualty rate. Gang felt a chill run up his spine. This casualty rate was just too high. You can never be too careful. Ling Jiu pointed at the radar screen. There are some Class .5 dire beasts in the northwest and a Class .6 dire beast in the southeast. Which one should we go after? The score we could get for a Class .6 dire beast equates to that of 100 Class .5 dire beasts. In terms of value, that Class .6 dire beast is unbeatable. But I am afraid that we might punch above our weight, Yuha said. We stand a good chance of killing it with the four of us joining hands. Ling Jiu was eager to try. With my gravity arcana, Yuha's dimensional arcana, Gang's black flame, and Linger's 5-element annihilation, I think it is workable. So are we going after it? Gang wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. It was crazy to hunt a Class .6 dire beast. He had never done such a mad thing before. It is not like we have a choice now. Ling Jiu suddenly spoke. Someone has gotten those Class .5 dire beasts. The three of them looked at the radar screen. The amber light dots representing the Class Point 5 dire beasts had disappeared, which meant someone else had killed them. There have been Class Point 5 dire beasts being killed since the beginning. Other people are no slouch either. Ling Jiao sighed. Everybody is working hard. Let's go after that Class Point 6 dire beast before someone else gets it. Very well. The four of them got onto the airship and flew toward the location of the Class Point 6 dire beast. They came in front of a cliff a few minutes later. There was a cave at the bottom of the cliff. Snore as loud as thunder was heard coming from the cave. Apparently, a dire beast was sleeping soundly inside. The dire beast's malevolence is scary. I feel like I can't breathe, the air is so heavy. The aura emitted by this dire beast is too intimidating. Can we really kill it? The four of them, who looked determined initially, got cold feet when arrived at the cave. Despite sleeping deeply, the dire beast still radiated nightmarish, deadly vibe inadvertently. It made them feel as if there was a huge rock pressing against their chests. They were losing courage. Fear not. With the four of us joining hands, we can surely kill it. Ling Jiao whispered. I will attack from the front to attract its attention while you all hide in the dark, waiting to strike at the right moment. Don't you think this is too dangerous? Ai Yuha frowned. Don't worry, I have a life-saving trick. Go, hide yourselves. Ling Jiao let out a smile as he walked over. As the other three concealed themselves, Ling Jiao strode to the cave opening and pressed with his might. A loud rumble came as the mountain shook and huge rocks tumbled down. The snore inside the cave stopped, replaced by a series of angry roars. Before long, a giant wombat, 15 meters tall and over 30 meters long, lunged out of the cave. It was black, body round like a giant meatball. No one would doubt its strength when seeing its stout body. The amazing thing about this wombat was that it had a pair of compound eyes, much like that of a fly, as if many screens were woven together. It is a compound-eyed wombat. Not good. Shi Gang's expression changed. This is a compound-eyed wombat. Ai Yuha exclaimed. The legendary dire beast that is capable of arcana replication. Yep. Shi Gang looked grave. It is the compound eyes that give it the arcana replication ability. So compound-eyed wombat is much stronger than ordinary Class Point 6 dire beasts. Arcana replication. Yang Ling.er muttered. Should we run? Kill. Ling Jiao and the compound-eyed wombat were already in a fight as soon as her voice trailed off. Ling Jiao had turned into a 30-meter-tall osmium giant. He was now as tall as 10-story building. At this moment, in front of him, the compound-eyed wombat looked like a little brother. Bang! Ling Jiao smashed down with his fists as he performed gravity arcana, immobilizing the compound-eyed wombat, slowing its movement. Bang! 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 He kept smashing his fists on the dire beast. But it was useless. The fat on the compound-eyed wombat's body shook and formed ripples of flesh, perfectly blocking Ling Jiao's punches. The dire beast was unhurt. However, Ling Jiao's attack had angered the compound-eyed wombat. It stretched out its paws and caught the osmium giant, then came down to bite at the osmium giant's head. Now. The other three made their moves at once. Dimensional shackle. Burn it. Boom. Ai Yuha performed a dimensional shackle, immobilizing the compound-eyed wombat on the spot. Following immediately, its head suddenly went up in black flames. Shi Gang had also acted. Annihilation. As Yang Ling.er shouted in low-pitched voice, the bloody mouth of the compound-eyed wombat suddenly disappeared into thin air. That's right. Disappearing into thin air. Without its mouth, the compound-eyed wombat screamed in agony. She just annihilated the dire beast's mouth. Yang Linger's arcana is terrifying indeed. As Ling Jiu exclaimed in his mind, he was performing another move. While the compound-eyed wombat was being immobilized, he formed two gigantic hands and smashed at the direbeast's head. Eightfold rolling thunder. Bang! Scorched by the black flame, the scalp of the compound-eyed wombat was gone. Even the thick layer of fat underneath the skin was burned, leaving the white skull exposed in the air. It was as horrible as it could get. So, when Ling Jiu smashed down his fist, he instantly crushed the compound-eyed wombat's skull, thrusting his fist into its brain. Blood and brain were splattered everywhere. Chapter 84. Second Awakening, the knocks on the door at night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, phew. I'm exhausted. Gang slumped to the ground, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. Ai Yuha and Yang Ling.E also breathed a sigh of relief. It had only been just a moment, but the battle was hair-raising. Lucky for them, they had been working well as a team. Otherwise, it would be hard to know what would have happened. We made it. Ling Jiu walked back up. Give yourself a pat on the back, we have just killed a Class .6 dire beast together. This is a notorious compound-eyed wombat. What we achieved is truly commendable. Gang chortled. Luckily that Yuha had used her dimensional shackle to stop it from using its arcana replication in time. If not, we would have been done for. Compound-eyed wombat. The arcana replication. Ling Jiu was startled. You don't know what it is, Ling Jiu. Gang pointed at the body of the dire beast. This is a notorious compound-eyed wombat that could replicate the abilities of other dire beasts for its own use. So it was far stronger than the ordinary Class .6 dire beasts. Had it not been for Yuha's dimensional shackle, we would have been in great danger. It was a team effort. Ai Yuha reached to draw her hair to the back of her ear. The eyes of the compound-eyed wombat are the most valuable part of its body. If we could gouge them out, we could sell them for a good price. Yep. They are the key ingredient for Second Awakening potion. Once the potion is consumed by those arcanists with replication ability, their arcana replication will undergo Second Awakening. Gang nodded in agreement. Second Awakening. Ling Jiu was none the wiser. Don't you know the Second Awakening? Ai Yuha looked at Ling Jiu in surprise. I have never heard of it before. Ling Jiu shook his head. I can't believe it. At first, Ai Yuha had wanted to take a jab at Ling Jiu. But when she thought of Ling Jiu's background, she realized she could not blame him. In fact, our arcana could undergo a deep awakening, which is the so-called Second Awakening, or even Third Awakening. Deep Awakening. Ling Jiu's heart skipped a beat. The awakening we underwent during first test of arcana is called the Initial Awakening. The next awakening is called the Second Awakening. Ai Yuha explained. The Second Awakening is far harder than the Initial Awakening. But after the Second Awakening, our arcana will grow stronger, just like my dimensional arcana. I could only perform some simple manipulations of dimensions after my initial awakening, so I hunted the Void Falcons and collected their bladders just to find someone to make a Second Awakening potion for my dimensional arcana. And I succeeded. After my Second Awakening, my dimensional arcana has become more powerful. So Ling Jiu, you have done me a big favor when you helped me hunt those Void Falcons last time. It's okay. Ling Jiu's eyes flashed. How to make the Second Awakening potion. Different types of arcana need different types of Second Awakening potion. Take me for an example. For my dimensional arcana, the key ingredient is the air bladder of the Void Falcon, Ai Yuha explained. You are of earth, gravity, and power. Type arcana. You need to find the organs of the dire beasts with these abilities. Once you have found these things, hand them to the company, and the company will do the rest. Of course, you can always get it from the black market. Just that it will cost an arm and a leg. Besides, there is no guarantee that the resulting potion will be reliable. I see. There was a light in Ling Jiu's eyes as he glanced at the compound-eyed wombat. Shi Gang had just said that the eyes of the compound-eyed wombat were the key ingredient in making the second awakening potion for the replication ability. Did that mean Ling Jiu just needed to gouge out its eyes, and he would be well on the way to making the second awakening potion? Hold on a second. The Arcana Replication. Did you just mention the Arcana Replication, Shi Gang? Ling Jiu put up a confused expression. Is there really an Arcana Replication in this world? The Arcana Replication used to be a hypothesis and assumption. But it has become real this year. Shi Gang nodded. There have been a few people reportedly awakened to Arcana Replication this year. Don't you feel strange? I have heard about it, too. Ayuha nodded in agreement. Just that the Arcana Replication of these people are imperfect, with a lot of limitations. The effect of some Arcana Replication would not last long. The replication ability would disappear after some time. Some Arcana Replication would stop working after 1 or 2 Arcana were replicated. All in all, the effectiveness of the Arcana Replication leaves much to be desired. It is far from God's perfect replication ability that people have always been thinking. Indeed. But even then, the Arcana Replication Arcanists are still sought after. I heard that many Arcana Combines were fighting for these talents. Shi Gang nodded, then suddenly took a jab at Ling Jiu. There is a ton of information in the forums and Arcanist groups. Don't you browse these forums? I am afraid that he is too busy with practicing self-cultivation and has no time for this. Ayuha smirked. You know me best. Ling Jiu scratched his head, looking embarrassed with a polite smile on his face. But deep down, there was a stormy sea of emotions. He was not the only person capable of Arcana Replication. Some other people have been awakened to this ability. Besides, it all happened this year, which was something strange. The key thing was, these awakened Arcana Replication Arcanists were sought after. Did that mean he could now reveal his replication ability? He figured he needed to find out people's attitude toward Arcana Replication. If Arcana Replication was no longer a secret, then there was no point for him to hide it anymore. Of course, this was not the point. The key thing was the second awakening. If my Arcana Replication could undergo a second awakening, will I become stronger just like what Ayuha said? Stronger in what respect? Let's move on and hunt the dire beasts. While Ling Jiu was still deep in thought, a pat on his shoulder by Shi Gang jolted him out of his little world. He quickly nodded. As all the trainees swung into actions, the number of Class .4 and Class .5, even Class .6 dire beasts around the fortress quickly dwindled within a day. Those dire beasts within 50 miles radius had been wiped out completely. This made hunting the dire beasts even more difficult unless they looked deeper into the wilderness. On Friday morning, Ling Jiu and 3 others continued their hunting. They now aimed at Class .6 dire beasts because of the lack of Class .5 dire beasts. With Ling Jiu as the tank, Shi Gang as the mage, Ayuha as support, and Yang Ling.er as the assassin, their tacit cooperation became the most lethal weapon. By the end of the day, they had hunted 80 Class .6 dire beasts, which they were extremely happy about. A Class .6 dire beast earns 10,000 scores. We have hunted 160 of them these 2 days, which means we have 1.6 million scores in total. Each person gets 400,000 scores. Inside the maglev airship, the 4 of them chatted away over dinner, and Shi Gang was especially excited. Making it to top 30 shouldn't be a problem, I guess. Who knows? Ling Jiu said. We will go into the deeper part of the wilderness tomorrow and hunt as many Class .6 dire beasts as possible. The more, the merrier. Wish us the best of luck. A smile broke out on Ai Yuha and Yang Ling Er's faces. They were happy about today's achievement, too. Suddenly, there were loud knocks on the door. Open the door. Courier service. Quickly open the door. Someone has come. The last I checked, the airship was in stealth mode. How did people find us? The stealth mode can only hide us from the dire beasts, but not the instrument on other trainees' hands. Yuha, open the door and see what they want from us. Okay. Chapter 85. For robbers, flying hippos. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. As Ai Yuha opened the door, a few men stormed in. These 4 teenagers had dreadlocks, tattoos, roguish like hooligans. They gave Ling Jiao and others a once-over. Leave behind your dimensional pockets and get the hell out of here. Bamboozled, Ling Jiao let out a smirk. He knew these people were up to no good when they had knocked on the door earlier. They were robbers, 4 of them. They wanted to take both their dimensional pockets and the airship. Just how greedy were these robbers? Also, they leered at the 2 girls. If not for the rules of the super training camp, they would have probably done the worst thing to Ai Yuha and Yang Ling. These 4 greedy lechers. Are you all deaf? Seeing that the Ling Jiao and others did not respond, the one robber with a chunky build clenched his fists with his knuckles cracking loudly as he glared at them. Let me say it again. Hand over your dimensional pockets. You don't want me to hurt you all, don't you? Hurt us. How? Ling Jiao sneered. You ask for it, kid. The chunky guy glared at Ling Jiao like a pissed bull. You have one last chance. Hand over your dimensional pockets and get the hell out of here. Ling Jiao had nothing more to say. What more needed to be said when dealing with such people? Shinra Tensei. Boom. The chunky guy was caught off guard and flung out of the airship before crash landing a far distance away. Ambrose. The remaining 3 teen robbers saw what happened and their expression changed subtly. Just then, an even more powerful force hit them, sending them flying out of the airship. Give me a moment while I talk to the 4 courier guys. Ling Jiao strode out of the airship. It was pitch dark outside. The stars in the night sky were the only light source. F*CK. D*M*. The 4 guys clambered to their feet, their eyes burning with fury. You have infuriated us, kid. Really? So what? Ling Jiao said, flicking his fingers. What an arrogant lad. I will smash your mouth. Leave him to me. He is mine. Ambrose roared and his body rapidly swelled like a hot air balloon. His head flattened with a pair of fangs exposed in his mouth. A pair of black feathered wings, much like that of an eagle, grew on his back to a series of strange sound. Ambrose had turned into a huge, fanged, black-winged monster in the matter of a few breaths. The only way to describe him was that he was a hybrid of hippo, eagle, and human. The body of a hippo, the wings of an eagle, and the head of a human. In fact, he was none of the above. It is a body-morphing arcana. Flying hippo form. Shi Gang warned. Be careful, Ling Jiao. You don't want to underestimate him. Don't worry. Ling Jiao let out a nonchalant smile. The flying hippo was a powerful class .6 dire beast. Not only did it have a terrifying strength, it also possessed the ability of flight and defense. In other words, this dire beast had 4 skills: it could defend attacks, gathered strength, unleash attacks while flying in the air. The most terrifying thing was, the flying hippos existed in large numbers. They were scattered on the grassland of Africa, known as the most formidable dire beasts. A class .6 dire beast was frightening enough, let alone they existed in groups. They were much scarier than the ordinary Class .6 dire beasts. On your knees, kid. Ambrose, who was now a monster, flapped his wings and lifted off into the air before swooping down at Ling Jiao with a punch. I can beat you with just the lift of my hand. Ling Jiao shook his head, raising his right hand as Ambrose approached. Shinra Tensei. Bang! A terrifyingly repulsive force hit Ambrose, sending him flying backward again. Do you think this is over? The beckoning. Ling Jiao shouted. Bang! Not long after, Ambrose was being pulled back again. Ling Jiao's hand was then up in the air. He got hold of a 2-meter tall rock and smashed it at Ambrose. Bang! The rock was shattered at once as it hit Ambrose. What followed next was a scream in agony and a series of clear bone-breaking sound from his body. Apparently, his bones were broken. You are weak. With a flick of his hand, Ling Jiao flung Ambrose again. The chunky man groaned in pain as he landed on the ground. Ambrose. The other three saw what happened and their facial expression changed. Are you all right? My ribs are broken. Ambrose wailed in pain. You are too ruthless, kid. Another teen robber, short, glared at Ling Jiao. I thought we all trainees are in the same boat. Do you have to do this? In the same boat. Ling Jiao sneered. Now you are telling me we are in the same boat. Why didn't you say so when you all first came in? The short guy's expression froze. Besides, I have gone easy on him. Just that he is too fragile. Ling Jiao shook his head. I wonder how he got selected into the super training camp with such a level of ability. Did he get through backdoor or something? You, the three guys were furious. What you? Now, I am giving you three a chance. Hand over your dimensional pockets and get the hell out of my sight. Or else, you three will end up just like him. Ling Jiao pointed at Ambrose who was groaning in pain on the ground. Give you our dimensional pockets. Perish the thought. Let's take him on. Go to hell. A fierce battle broke out instantly. But it ended just quickly. Ling Jiao stood on the spot as if nothing had ever happened, while the three teen robbers had tumbled backward, crying in pain. Together with Ambrose, their groans sounded like a wonderful cadence in this vast wilderness. How dare you four become robbers with only this level of strength? I wonder where did you get your courage from? Ling Jiao took their dimensional pockets away from them, then returned to the maglev airship, leaving the four guys to themselves. Whether they could survive the night, or get eaten by the dire beasts, it had got nothing to do with him. As long as the fighting between trainees did not happen within the fortress, the super training camp was not going to intervene. After all, the super training camp had never prohibited internecine rivalries. Chapter 86. Leaderboard Update, Angelization Arcana. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. These four guys are too weak, even weaker than AI Shangcheng in Chu Ding. I wonder how they made it here. The super training camp might aim to select the elites from around the world, but it also tries to be fair by giving out quotas. So it got a mixed bag of good and not so good trainees. Indeed. The competition in the developed world is intense, and so those who are selected are strong. But in those poorer areas, arcanists are fewer, and so the level of strength of the trainees from these places are lower. Indeed. The four of them chatted away over dinner. After that, they returned to their respective rooms and practiced self-cultivation. The next morning, the hunt continued. The day passed uneventfully. At 18:00 hours, the six of them returned to the training camp on time and handed over their harvest. The only thing left to do was to wait for the rankings to be announced tomorrow. On Sunday afternoon, while Ling Jiao was still practicing self-cultivation, Shi Gang went to jolt him up. The results are about to come out, Ling Jiu. Let's check them out together. What time is it now? Ling Jiu asked. 5:50. It is nearly 6. Shi Gang looked anxious. As per the rule, the leaderboard will be updated at 6 in the evening. Everybody has gone down there. We had better hurry. All right. When the two came to the center of the square, they found that almost everyone had been here. Ai Yuha was pushing Yang Ling.er in a wheelchair, coming in their direction. Ling Jiu said his hellos to the two and shifted his attention to the giant screen that was still blank until the clock hit 18.00 hours. What do you think, Ling Jiu? What results will we get? Shi Gang was becoming even more anxious. Who knows? Ling Jiu shrugged. But it shouldn't be too bad. It's up. The leaderboard is up. Someone shouted, instantly attracting everyone's attention. Ling Jiu looked up. Indeed, names had appeared on the screen. My ranking shouldn't be too bad. While thinking so, Ling Jiu scanned the leaderboard for his name. Number 1. Zhou Ji, 1,500,000. It is not me at the top spot. Ling Jiu's heart sank. Number 2. Christopher Adam, 1,390,000. I am not in the second place too. Number 3. Hirano Hitaki, 1,330,000. Third place, not me. Ling Jiu clenched his fists. Just then, he heard Shi Gang called out. You are on the 9th, Ling Jiu. 9th place. 9th. Ling Jiu's eyes skipped the rest and shifted to the 9th place down the list. He saw his name. Number 9. Ling Jiu, 615,000. Only 9th. Ling Jiu's heart sank to the bottom. This ranking was by no means low, but it did not meet his expectation. In his mind, he wanted all the advanced vitality. Enhancement fluid, advanced gene arcana. Enhancement fluid, and the level 1 cultivation room at 12 underground chambers. It was because only by enjoying the best benefits could he advance rapidly. 9th place. Screw it. Intermediate vitality. Enhancement fluid. Intermediate gene arcana. Enhancement fluid. Level 3 of the 12 underground chambers. Ling Jiu felt a little depressed. It was his first time tasting failure. He thought with his arcana replication and 5 types of replicated arcana, he would be one of the strongest trainees in the super training camp. Hence, making it up to top 3 shouldn't have been a problem. But the result was a slap in his face. He did not even make it to top 5, let alone top 3. He barely squeezed through the top 10 threshold. Not only that, the gap between my result and the top 3 trainees is pretty huge. 1.and half million, 1.100. and 0.30.9 thousand, 130.3 thousand, while mine is only 60.1500, not even close. The gap is just. Ling Jiu suddenly realized that he had been underestimating others, and finally, the words of Jing Biao came to mind. The super training camp is filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. At first, Ling Jiu did not take that seriously. But now he was witnessing it. Every peak sat under the shadow of another, so every man might meet one stronger than himself. He now realized he had to work harder. In contrast, Shi Gang was euphoric. I have got the 12th place. Ling Jiu, I have got the 12th place. Did you see that? I am 12th. Good for you. Ling Jiu forced a smile, then checked out the names down the leaderboard. Number 10. Ai Yuha, 608,000. Number 11. Yang Ling.er, 605,000. Number 12. Shi Gang, 601,000. Because the 4 of them were in a team, their scores were more or less the same. Other than Shi Gang, who was very happy with his result, Ai Yuha and Yang Ling.er were not so happy. Ling Jiu did not get the result he wanted. But he was still at 9th place, which meant he could enter level 3 of the 12 underground chambers and practiced self-cultivation there. What about them? 10th and 11th places. Those were awkward results, meaning they could get 1 hour of self-cultivation practice on level 4 of the 12 underground chambers. Ling Jiao had 3 days for himself while they had only 1 hour. The difference in benefits was a little huge. It was hard for top geniuses like them to accept. You three look not so happy. Sensing their disappointment, Shi Gang stopped smiling. Aren't you all happy with the results? That's all right, just a little worse than expected. I am all right, since it is only the first round. We will work harder the next round. At 23.50 hours, following the rule, Ling Jiao came to the 12 underground chambers. At this time, the door leading to the 12 underground chambers had closed, and the remaining 8 qualified trainees were all here. There were 3 females and 5 males. That would be 3 females and 6 males, including Ling Jiao. What surprised him was, other than himself, there were only 2 East Asians here. In other words, there were only 3 East Asians among the qualified trainees. In front of me are the 2 East Asians, Zhou Ji who is in the top place, and Hirano Hitaki in the 3rd place. Ling Jiao could not help but look at the 2 East Asians. One was standing at 1.7 meters, unassuming and looking sturdy. The other was tall, with piercing phoenix eyes and hooked nose, whom Ling Jiao felt was not as good as him. I wonder which one is Zhou Ji. While Ling Jiao mumbled to himself, that tall man walked over to him. Hello, my name is Zhou Ji. Nice to meet you. He spoke Mandarin, typical Beijing accent as he self-introduced. Hi, my name is Ling Jiao. Ling Jiao held out his hand. I am from Beijing Base City. What about you? Zhou Ji appeared friendly. I am from Lantian Base City. Ling Jiao let out a smile. Congratulations for getting the 1st place. I got lucky this time. Probably it won't be this easy next time. Zhou Ji waved, as if the 1st ranking did not concern him. There are many talented monsters in the super training camp this time. Because of the limited self-cultivation resources last time, they did not reach their real potential. Once they spent some time practicing self-cultivation here, defeating them is going to be hard. Monsters. Ling Jiao cocked an eyebrow. The actual monsters. Zhou Ji looked at a handsome Caucasian guy. Take that guy, Christopher Adam, for example. He's the top 2 this week. Do you know what his arcana are? Ling Jiao shook his head. Other than Ai Yuha and a few others he knew none of the rest. That guy is from Italy, recruited by Pangu's branch in Washington Base City. He is capable of supersonic shift arcana and angelization arcana. Chapter 87. Mach Point 10 Speed, Physical Enhancement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Supersonic Shift Arcana and Angelization Arcana. The Supersonic Shift Arcana gives Christopher that terrifying speed. At level 0.1, his speed could reach Mach 1, at level 0.2, Mach 4. He is now a level 0.5 arcanist capable of a speed of Mach 10, Zhou Ji said. Mach 10. How fast is that? Ling Jiao looked at that Caucasian guy with blonde hair and blue eyes. How could his body cope at that speed? As an object moved, it would encounter air resistance. The faster it moved, the higher the air resistance was. Once an object traveled faster than the speed of sound, the air resistance would be enormous. When compounded with shock waves and other phenomena, a person's body could get ripped apart, or even disintegrate. Taking a supersonic fighter jet as an example, before the 4th generation fighter jets came into being, the 3rd generation fighter jets could not perform sustainable supersonic flight. If a 3rd generation jet traveled at supersonic speed over 1 or 2 minutes, it would probably disintegrate. That would happen to a fighter jet made of alloy materials, let alone a body of flesh and blood. Apparently, without a tough enough body, nothing could sustain supersonic flight. Yet, Christopher could move at Mach 10. How strong his body had to be to do that. This is his other arcana. Zhou Ji said. Angelization arcana. Ling Jiu raised an eyebrow. Do you believe there are angels in this world, Ling Jiu? Zhou Ji asked back instead of answering his question. He was stunned by Zhou Ji's question and he did not know how to answer. In principle, he was an atheist, not believing in any form of gods. The question here was, what else was impossible when even transmigration was already a reality? No one really knows for sure if angels exist. But after activating angelization, Christopher does look like an angel, Zhou Ji said in slow pace. Standing at 5 meters tall with a pair of golden wings and a holy aura, he does really look like a legendary angel. People call this morphing ability of Christopher's angelization arcana. Many Christian Westerners even see Christopher as an angel incarnation. He has many followers there. Ling Jiu had no word for it. Is the angelization arcana powerful? The angelization arcana has a single function, which is physical enhancement. But that is enough to make him sustain the supersonic speed. That's the incredible part of him, Zhou Ji said. There is a saying that goes, nothing beats speed when it comes to martial arts. When a person's speed reaches a certain threshold, that person would become incredibly powerful. So you can imagine how powerful Christopher is. He is incredible. Ling Jiu licked to moisten his dry lips. His heart fluttered. Supersonic shift was really a damn good arcana. He could not imagine how good it would be if he could replicate this arcana and use it in combination with his tungsten form. Just then, the large alloy door leading to the 12 underground chambers opened. Everyone looked over. A hunky African stood at the doorway, looking at them. 12 midnight. The 12 underground chambers is open. First, second, and third place winners go to level 1. Fourth, fifth, and sixth place winners go to level 2. Seventh, eighth, and ninth place winners go to level 3. You all may stay in the cultivation chambers for the next 3 days. Your rewards of Vitality Enhancement Fluid and Gene Arcana Enhancement Fluid have been placed in your respective chambers. You all may consume them directly. Alright, get in now. Yes, sir. Passing the large alloy door, Ling Jiu came to level 3. With him were a Caucasian girl and a guy with brown hair. The three nodded at each other, then entered their respective cultivation chambers. The chamber was about 20 meters square with a thick alloy wall on 3 sides and an opening on one side. There was no wall at the opening, not even a glass window. Amazed by what he saw, Ling Jiu could not help but walk to the side with no wall and look down. He broke out in a cold sweat at seeing a large fissure below. The fissure was winding, several hundred meter wide and over 10 kilometer long. It was immensely deep as he could not see clearly the bottom. There was a faint blue light shining out of the fissure, making it look like the mouth of a giant monster about to swallow him. So this is the dimensional fissure. Ling Jiu was wide-eyed. The dimensional fissure apparently laid beneath the earth. When it appeared, the earth had cracked open. It was the earth's crack on the surface, and the dimensional fissure was at the bottom. Where does this fissure lead me to if I were to fall into it? An alien planet, or extraterrestrial region? Probably not. More like the fissure will rip me apart into million pieces. Ling Jiu observed the fissure for a while before getting himself ready for practicing self-cultivation. He first came in front of a rack and took up 2 test tubes. One tube contained greenish fluid while the other silverish fluid. This greenish fluid must be the intermediate vitality enhancement fluid, and the silverish one the intermediate vitality enhancement fluid. Which one should I take first? He hesitated for a while before picking the greenish one and threw the content down his throat. It tasted sourly sweet, much like plum soup. But the pleasant feeling did not last long. He was then hit by dry and hot, and tingling sensation. He felt a stream of warm energy rise from his abdomen and spread to the rest of his organs and body, chest, arms, back, legs, neck, and head. It felt as if he had gulped down an entire bottle of liquor. The burning sensation was mixed with unbearable itchiness. Gradually, the itchiness was getting worse. He felt as if there were a million ants crawling all over his body. All he could do was to refrain from scratching and bear with it. It was hot. He felt his body boiling, as if he had a 45 degrees Celsius hype fever. It was itchy. It was unbelievably itchy, so much so that it almost killed him. Who the hell invented this thing? This is so freaking weird. Ling Jiao cursed quietly. Unknowing to him, however, amid these dry and hot and itchy sensations, his body was transforming, or in another word, enhanced. His skin and flesh, his tendons and bones, and his organs were rapidly toughening. His muscles became stronger, his fascia was more powerful and flexible, his bones became tougher. Everything happened so quickly at 1,000 times faster than on normal days. But as intense and rapid as the sensation was, it faded just as quick and completely disappeared after 10 minutes. That's it. Ling Jiao took a couple of heavy breaths, then found that he had sweated like a pig with a layer of black stuff on his skin. He stank to high heaven. That's disgusting. Ling Jiao frowned, thinking of cleaning himself up. But he found that there was not even a bathroom in the cultivation chamber, so he had no choice but to bear with it. Never mind. Practicing self-cultivation is more important. After giving himself a pep talk, Ling Jiao picked up another test tube, the one that contained the gene arcana enhancement fluid, and drank the entire content. Chapter 88. Level 0.5 Breakthrough, Liberating Combat Strength. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. There was a burst of gene arcana spreading rapidly throughout his body. Ling Jiao felt as if his body was going to explode, so he quickly performed Sea of 100 Rivers to regulate his billowing gene arcana. He had lost track of time. By the time he kept them under control, he felt his internal strength had become much vigorous. If the intermediate gene arcana enhancement fluid can produce such result, just how much greater the result of advanced gene arcana enhancement fluid can be. Ling Jiao was unsatisfied. Had I been able to get my hands on the advanced gene arcana enhancement fluid, I would have achieved a level 0.5 breakthrough. Forget it. I'd better make the best of the remaining time by practicing more. Ling Jiao shook the thought out from his mind, performed Sea of 100 Rivers again to inhale the gene arcana in his surroundings. As soon as he did that, he felt a rich gene arcana gathering from all directions and storming into his body. This gene arcana is incredibly concentrated. Ling Jiao opened his eyes in amazement. The concentration level is at least 10 times that of the outside world. Damn! This place is heaven for practicing self-cultivation. Ling Jiao was shivering in excitement. He frenziedly captured the gene arcana in the surroundings to boost his internal strength. Time had passed unknowingly. He felt the gene arcana in his body running wildly throughout his body, as if it had broken free from shackles. They moved up to his brain and down to his feet. Every part of his body contained a rich amount of gene arcana, circulating throughout his body in an endless cycle. At this moment, Ling Jiao felt a quality of lightness in him, as if he were a weightless feather that could flew into the sky with just the tap of his foot. My body feels so light. Ling Jiao mumbled. With just a slight support from the flowing osmium soil, he was able to float into the air, just like what Jin Chao, the general manager of Vulcan, did last time. Is this royal hover? Ling Jiao tried again and found that he could float into the air effortlessly by harnessing the osmium soil. However, it was hard for him to move in the air. That was because he had only a vertical without lateral movement ability. Apparently, with Earth manipulation, he could only perform rover hover but not fly free like a bird. Let's try gravity. Ling Jiu retrieved the osmium soil. With gravity force as the support, he floated again. He adjusted the force behind him so now it turned horizontal and forward. He could move horizontally. I am flying. Ling Jiu was excited. When he first gained the gravity arcana, he already knew he could use it to fly. But he was too busy in his cultivation and had no time trying it out. He did not expect he could succeed on his first try. It was surprisingly easy. But flying seems like an art. I could only fly at low speed. Wanting to use flying as a combat skill is impossible right now. It takes time. Combat. He certainly knew no way he could use flying in combat right now. With his current speed of flying and dodging, he looked like a big bull's eye in the air. That said, Ling Jiu's flying skill had in fact surpassed that of many level 0.5 or even level 0.6 arcanists. Only level 0.7 arcanists could perform an actual flight. But he had done it in level 0.5. How much time left? He checked his mobile phone. It was 20.00 hours on Wednesday, 4 hours to go before the clock hit midnight. 4 more hours to go. I have got to make the best of it. 4 hours quickly passed and an ear-piercing sound of the bell rang throughout the cultivation chambers. Self-cultivation practice session has ended. All trainees are required to leave the chambers immediately. D***. This loud announcement in the middle of the night terrified the hell out of me. Ling Jiu dug into his ringing ears and quickly left the cultivation chamber. Early next morning, Ling Jiu departed alone. Except for Shi Gang, Ayuha and Yang Ling.er did not intend to form a team. This was in line with Ling Jiu's thinking because he did not want to form a team either. After renting some tools, Ling Jiu drove his maglev airship and flew toward the wilderness as quickly as the airship could go. This time, he did not hunt any dire beasts along the way. Instead, he headed straight into the deeper part of the wilderness, arriving at the danger zone where powerful dire beasts lay. After becoming a level 0.5 arcanist, Ling Jiu was more confident of his ability. He made class 0.6 dire beasts as his target and would go it alone. As soon as he switched on the radar, he instantly saw the signals. There were 30 over class 0.6 dire beasts within 10 kilometers radius. What did that mean for him? It only took 1 or 2 class 0.6 dire beasts to break defense and unleash total destruction to a city of 5 million population like Lantian Bay City. Thinking back, a bloodgorger bat nearly brought down the defense of Lantian Bay City last time. The destruction of these 30 or so class 0.6 dire beasts could bring would be unimaginable. I have 2 missions this time. 1. Find compound-eyed wombats, harvest their eyes for making the second awakening potion. 2. Hunt as many class 0.6 dire beasts as possible. Today's target. Hunt 80 of them. Bedo Dem Ling Jiu licked his lips. Since he was going solo this time, he wanted to liberate his combat strength to the max. Next, he teleported himself to appear in front of a class 0.6 dire beast. Before he got close, he could already hear a snoring noise that sounded like the rumble of thunder. And before the dire beast knew it, he had come in front of it. Ling Jiu's eyes brightened up when he saw this dire beast. He knew he had got lucky this time because it was a compound-eyed wombat he had been looking for. Eightfold rolling thunder. He performed a tungsten form and smashed the dire beast's head with a punch. His combat strength had gained a tremendous breakthrough after he became a level 0.5 arcanist. The attack range of his earth manipulation arcana had increased to 200 meters. His teleportation arcana had increased in range to 200 meters. The force of his gravity arcana had risen to 10 times the normal gravity. When he was in tungsten form, his strength was 200 times higher than normal. What about shadow form? Leave this to another time. Bang! The tungsten-formed punch, carrying energy powerful enough to destroy everything, hit the compound-eyed wombat on the head. Blood and brain splattered at the sound of the cracking of the skull. The compound-eyed wombat snoring stopped. While in its sleep and before it could perform its replicated arcana, Ling Jiao had crushed its skull. Poor guy. This showed how terrific, brutal, overwhelmingly powerful the combination of teleportation and tungsten form was. What about Mach 10 speed? My teleportation is the quickest and most elusive in terms of speed. Chapter 89. Uninvited guest, the celestial magical cat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Roar. A monster over 30 meter long, with vicious eyes and spiky body, much like an alligator, was growling at Ling Jiao. Lying silently not far from this beast was the body of a python. This was a Class 6 dire beast, the spiky monitor lizard. Right now, this spiky monitor lizard was really pissed. While it was about to enjoy the fruit of its labor after killing a giant python with hard effort, Ling Jiao came out of nowhere to ruin the feast. It vowed it would teach Ling Jiao an unforgettable lesson. Let him know that, sir. Spiky was not someone he could afford to mess with. Roar. The spiky monitor lizard flicked its 10-meter long tail to attack Ling Jiao. Like its body, its tail was full of tough and sharp spikes, which, other than the teeth, were his strongest and most lethal weapon. This tail could cut a heavy tank in half, let alone a person. However, just as the spiky monitor lizard struck its tail like a bolt of lightning at its target, Ling Jiao had already disappeared from the spot. The next moment, he reappeared above the spiky monitor lizard's head and struck down with an 8-fold rolling thunder. Ling Jiao's fist carrying a powerful energy punched through the spiky monitor lizard's skull until his entire arm entered inside the head. The dire beast froze. Its body twitched violently for a moment before it became motionless, dead. 5 consecutive kills of Class 6 dire beasts have proved that the combo of teleportation and tungsten form is a killer move when it comes to Class 6 dire beasts. I need to build on this momentum to hunt 80 Class 6 dire beast today. A Class 6 dire beast was worth 10,000 points, 80 of these dire beasts would earn him 800,000 points. If he could kill 80 of these dire beasts a day, he would have 240 kills in 3 days. That would mean 2.4 million points for him. By the looks of things, getting the top spot on the leaderboard should not be a problem. But killing 80 Class 6 dire beasts a day was a tall order. Ling Jiao mumbled to himself. He kept the spiky monitor lizard's body and moved on to find another Class 6 dire beast. He went from one dire beast to the next. Every one of them had died at Ling Jiao's iron fist. By going it alone, Ling Jiao had liberated his combat strength to the fullest extent. Getting near to a dire beast by teleportation, immobilizing it with the gravity arcana, killing it with the tungsten form. Ling Jiao did not even need to use his earth manipulation arcana, much less the shadow form. This was not without reasons. In the race to harvest the dire beasts, the earth manipulation arcana seemed to be a little inefficient. It was not fast and brutal enough. I need to get the personal details of the other trainees so I can select my next target to replicate arcana. The cooling-off period is about to expire. In Ling Jiao's original plan, his next target was Chang Jiandong's 100-fold gene arcana. But it was impossible now, considering they were too far apart from each other. He had no choice but to target the other trainees in the training camp. It was nightfall. As darkness engulfed the Australian continent, the howls and growls of beasts rose in tandem. Many dire beasts that slept during the day had come out to forage at night. After an exhaustive day of hunting, Ling Jiao found a suitable place, released his maglev airship, and set it in stealth mode as he rested for the day inside it. He lay in a bathtub, then let out a comfort sigh as he had his muscles relaxed in warm water. What a day! I have killed 70.2 class .6 dire beasts, still falling short of the 80. Dire beast target. But, hey, it is not bad. At least it is more than last week's 3 days combined. Ling Jiu was satisfied. He believed he could make it to top 3 this time. He could not hold back his excitement at the thinking of the Advanced Vitality. Enhancement Fluid, Advanced Gene Arcana. Enhancement Fluid, and the right to use the level 1 chambers in the 12 underground chambers. Meow. While Ling Jiu's mind was drifting away, the cry of a cat came to ear. He was sure the airship had top-notch sound insulation. So where did this cat crying come from? Ling Jiu looked up. Not far away from the bathtub, a black cat of about 8 meter long was squatting on the table. It was purplish black, its eyes were like rubies, its coat was fluffy. It was definitely a cute-looking cat, which was a to-die-4 pet for many young girls. But Ling Jiu felt a chill run up his spine as he saw the big black cat. It might look adorable, but those who recognized it would have their hair standing on end. It is the Celestial Magical Cat, a Class .8 dire beast that is ranked 70.2nd on the list of dire beasts. Ling Jiu swallowed hard. His heart almost stopped pumping. The Celestial Magical Cat was a horrible Class .8 dire beast that had a unique ability: it could go through walls. And it was not limited to just brick walls. No obstacles like land, rock, metal, and tree could stop it. Celestial Magical Cat could pass through these obstacles as if they were not there. This was the creepiest Class .8 dire beast. Of course, some people thought that the ability of the Celestial Magical Cats belonged to dematerialization or dimensional arcana. That was the reason it could pass through obstacles. In short, the Celestial Magical Cats were mysterious and powerful dire beasts. People had little knowledge of them. It was only aware that they were dire beasts that people should not mess with. D***. How did this horrible thing appear in my airship? Ling Jiu cursed quietly. He was ready to perform a teleportation to flee once there was the slightest movement that showed this Celestial Magical was going to attack. But it surprised him when the cat walked to a pack of nutritional dried meat, picked it up with its mouth, and started eating. It had no intention of attacking him. This thing is after the food. Ling Jiu was dumbfounded. The nutritional dried meat, issued by the training camp, was made from dire beast meat with some other ingredients and nutrition. It was not only nutritious but also rich in gene arcana. It was the main food source for every trainee entering the wilderness. Before he came, he had spent over $10,000 buying over 20 packs of this nutritional dried meat, which was very expensive. Right now, this Celestial Magical Cat was eating a piece of this nutritional dried meat with gusto. The cat's teeth were sharp, and the hard and supple dried meat looked like a crispy carrot in its mouth. It finished a piece of dried meat in the blink of an eye. It then picked up another one and dug in. The cat did not take long to finish all the dried meat. The Celestial Magical Cat tried to look for more but could not find it. Its ruby-like eyes then gazed at Ling Jiu with eagerness and anticipation. "It is my freaking food, you know. You have freaking finished them all and left me with nothing." Ling Jiu cursed quietly. "Meow." The Celestial Magical Cat cried. Ling Jiu froze before taking the hint and took out another pack of nutritional dried meat, tore open the wrapping, and handed it to the cat. Wildlife is humans' best friend. It is everyone's duty to protect wildlife. Ling Jiu acted tough, giving himself a pep talk. "That's it. I am protecting wildlife. I will not shirk my responsibility to protecting the ecosystem and the earth." Chapter 90. Crystal Salamander, the Netherbloom. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The Celestial Magical Cat ate the nutritional dried meat as if it was eating Kit Kat. It finished a second bag of the dried meat in no time, then looked at Ling Jiao with the same anticipatory expression like before. How Ling Jiao wished he could shoot a glare at the cat and lecture, "Greedy pussy, you finished all my food. Are you really going to leave me with nothing?" But he dared not. Facing a terrifying dire beast that could take his life any minute, Ling Jiao was the pussy. But hey, how could he be called a pussy when what he did was to protect wildlife? That's right. Protecting wildlife was the keyword. Ling Jiao took out yet another bag of nutritional dried meat, ripped open the packaging, then, on his own initiative, handed over the food. The celestial magical cat dug in after looking at him with what might look like a pleased smile. One bag after another. A few moments later, the celestial magical cat had wolfed down 7 to 8 bags of nutritional dried meat and was finally satisfied. It stretched, then leaped across a dozen meters before landing on the bed not far away. That was Ling Jiao's bed, with top of the line, back support silent springs, and the finest white swan velvet blanket. It was a joy to sleep in such a soft and cozy bed. The celestial magical cat helped itself to the bed. It found the most comfortable position before curling up its body and fell asleep. Ling Jiao was struck dumb. What the hell does that mean? It really makes itself at home, eh? Darn it, Ling Jiao was infuriated. It ate his dried meat, that was okay. But now what? Taking over his bed. This thing could not have been greedier. It had gone too far. But, it's okay. I am a hardcore wildlife protector. I let you. He carefully pulled himself out of the bathtub, dried the water from his body, then cautiously came to a corner of the wall and started practicing self-cultivation. He made sure he was not too immersed himself in his own world, lest he would get killed by the celestial magical cat. It was a nerve-wracking night. Luckily, the celestial magical cat did not attack. The night had passed with no incident. But early next morning, the cat asked for food again. Ling Jiao had no choice but to give the cat a few more bags. After the cat had had its fill of dried meat, it stretched, then leaped into a wall and disappeared. Ling Jiao quickly opened the door and saw the cat was already outside, walking away with elegant steps. Its steps were small. But each step brought the cat over 10 meters away, as if it could shrink the distance. Just like that, it quickly disappeared from his field of vision. Watching the celestial magical cat go away, Ling Jiao could not help but reach for his neck, happy that his head was still attached. The cat must have shown him mercy last night. I can't believe that I shared a room with a Class .8 dire beast last night. Ling Jiao broke out in a cold sweat. I had better go. Hope it won't come again. Ling Jiao put on his clothes and tucked away the maglev airship before leaving the place in a hurry. Boom! A 50-meter long giant python dropped dead to the ground. The diameter of this dire beast was the size of a water tank. It had a horn on the head, and 4 claws under the belly, and powerful muscles. This was not a dragon but the infamous horned monitor python, a Class .6 dire beast. It was a mix of python and lizard, possessing the special arcana of ice manipulation. He kept the horned monitor python's body and moved on. Quickly, he arrived at a cave that looked more like an underground cavern. It seemed like the flow of the river had carved the cavern. It was subterranean, twisty as it stretched to the deep part of the earth. Radar shows there was a Class .6 dire beast in the deeper part of the cavern. Ling Jiao looked at the pitch-dark cavern and hesitated. But he still walked into it after a while. The good thing was, the passage was large enough. It did not take him too long before he came to the deeper part of the cavern. Appearing before him was a pond. At half the size of a basketball court, the pond was giving out a chilly air. Radar shows that a Class .6 dire beast is right here inside the pond. What is that? While Ling Jiao looked at the pond trying to search for the dire beast, he noticed a few white plants growing on the wall on the other side of the pond. With the help from the torchlight, he could see the leaves, vines, and even roots of the plants were white. Not pure white, but cream white. White plants. Ling Jiu was amazed. Black plants and white plants were rare in nature. So when there was one, whether it was black or white, it surely was some famous species. He rummaged through his memories but could not find any information about these white plants. Just when he was about to use his microcomputer to conduct further searches, there was a sound coming from the pond. The head of something slowly came out of the water. It looked smooth, cream white, much like a frog and a salamander with 6 coxcomb-like organs on its neck. It is the crystal salamander. Ling Jiu moved in a flash, came above the crystal salamander, and struck its head with a punch. The blow penetrated its skull and killed it instantly. He kept the crystal salamander's body. Using his gravity manipulation arcana, he flew to the wall on the other side of the pond. What a beautiful plant, much like a milk ice sculpture. Ling Jiu exclaimed in awe as he took out the microcomputer and scanned. Crystal demonic orchid. A plant which grows up to over 10 centimeters tall. The stalk is straight without branches. It is creamy white in appearance, grows in clusters in a dark underground environment. So it is also known as the netherbloom, deathbloom, and wraithbloom. Crystal demonic orchid can secrete a peculiar substance that attracts animals. It then uses the feces, urine, and even carcass of animals as nutrients. This peculiar substance is Substance Y, a natural arcana awakening potion. Any animal or dire beast that has licked Substance Y will acquire special abilities. The specific abilities vary from animal to animal. Awakening rate 100%. Because of its outstanding arcana awakening effect, the crystal demonic orchid is a wonderful arcana awakening plant, and used as a natural deep arcana awakening potion. The deep awakening rate is 60%. It is a natural deep arcana awakening potion. Ling Jiu was wide-eyed, even ecstatic. He could not believe that he was so lucky. At first, he thought he would have to go through a lot of troubles before finding the second awakening potion. Little did he expect he could stumble upon a natural one. Even heaven was on his side. Let's check out the way to take it.